is Matt 1033, chapter 5, section 8. This deals with solving quadratics by factoring. First of all, you've got to, if you're not good on factoring, make sure you review your rules on factoring. Make sure you can be able to factor. If you can factor, these problems become very easy. This is example 2 on page 320. We have 2x squared plus 9x minus 5 equals 0. 2x squared plus 9x minus 5 is a trinomial. So therefore we use the rules for trinomial. Because the last sign's a minus, we have opposite signs in the parentheses. We have 2x here and an x here. That gives us the 2x squared in the front. We got a 5 and a minus 1 here. That gives us a minus 5. Now, if I go my inside times my inside, I get a minus 1x. If I go my outside times the outside, I get a positive 10x. 10x minus 1x is 9x. Then what we do is take each factor, set it equal to 0, and solve. Add 1 over, divide by 2, we get x equals 1/2. Subtract 5 over, we get x equals 5. Negative 5, sorry. One thing I want to make sure everybody understands is that you've got to understand the relationship of what we call factors, zeros, and x-intercepts. So if I have a factor x plus 4, because it's x plus 4 and it is attached to each other, it's called a factor. So see over here, 2 minus 1 is a factor. X plus 5 is a factor. If I take that factor and set it equal to 0 and solve, then what I get for x is called my zero. A lot of times you'll see directions say solve for the zeros. This is what they're talking about. Factoring, take each factor, solve for the value. But I've also got to understand that when I solve for the 0, I'm actually solving for the x-intercept. So see, you could be given this and still have this, because you work backwards. Just add this over, x plus 4 is your factor. So you've got to understand that if you have a factor, you have a 0, you have an x-intercept. If you have x-intercept, you have a 0, you have a factor. If you have a 0, you have an x-intercept and a factor. They're related. On example 4 on page 321, a little more involved. We have to distribute here and here. This gives us 3x squared plus 12 plus 5 equals negative 6x minus 12x plus 3. I'm going to add the 6x squared over, because remember we want our coefficient in front of x squared to be positive. That means I add the 12x over. That means I subtract the 13 from 17 to get 4. 9x squared plus 12x plus 4 factors into 3x minus 4 minus 2 times 3x plus 2. Solve. We get the zeros of x equals 2/3, x equals negative 2/3. So here's my factors. Here's my zeros. If I wrote this as 2/3 comma 0 in parentheses, and this negative 2/3 comma 0 in parentheses, these would be my x-intercepts. Coming over here, we have example 5, page 321. We have 2x squared plus 17 over 3x plus 1. We're going to use the same tactic that we did with solving linear equations. We want to get rid of this fraction. So we're going to multiply every term in the equation by 3. When I do, 3 times 2 is 6x squared. 3 times the 17/3, the 3's cancel, give me 17x. 3 times 1 is 3. Now again, I want the coefficient in front of x squared positive. So I'm going to subtract the 17x over, subtract the 3 over. I get this trinomial. Factor it, becomes 6x plus 1 times x minus 3. Set x plus 1, 6x plus 1 equals 0. Subtract 1, divide by 6, we get x equals negative 1/6. Add the 3 over, we get x equals 3. Make sure that you understand this concept of the factor as a 0 and as an x-intercept. So see here, this is example 10 on 325. We have f of x equals x minus 3 times x plus 2. If I take x minus 3 and set it equal to 0, I get x equals 3, which tells me I have the 0 and the x-intercept at 3, 0, which is letter B. If I take this x plus 2, set it equal to 0 and solve, I get x equals negative 2, which means I have an x-intercept at negative 2, 0. If I take this one, x is a variable, x equals 0. So I know I have this one here. X plus 2 gives me x minus 2, which gives me negative 2 as a x-intercept. X minus 2 gives me 2, which gives me 2 as an x-intercept, 2, 0. Here I have an intercept at 2, negative 2, and 1, which is what I have here. So make sure you understand this relationship of factor, and how a factor can give you a 0, how a 0 can give you an x-intercept, or vice versa.